Ready for those 3 days? You know, lots of talks, right? You know, I came in on Sunday morning this week, and I read a very interesting paper to put ourselves on about where we are in the world as far as sports. The paper is from Fortune last month, and it's about a fantastic company, and it's about supply chain. And this company, Spain is home of this company. This is the largest retailer of fashion, Inditex. And their paper is about, in the context of the arrival of the new chairwoman, Marta Ortega, and where the company is going through. And as sports, it's always interesting to learn from our customers and end customers and to listen where they are going to. And when you look at the future of Inditex, it's very interesting. First of all, they said that their industry will change dramatically in the next 5 to 10 years. So they have to think about the future, but they are thinking of the future high speed. They want to fast, cheap, and green garments all over. And they primarily said, we want really to transform the supply chain. And they mentioned in that paper on Fortune magazine that they are focused on 3 matters. The subject is about decision-making based on data. They sell about 856 items, garment, every minute. And they collect all those data worldwide, real time, and in 2 days they can produce a new garment depending on trends. So data collaboration, real-time decision-making, interesting. Second thing is hyper-digital in-stop shopping. They opened recently in Madrid a fantastic new way of buying when you go inside the store. So new customer experience. And finally, but what is most important for sustainability, it's how they can retrofit garments. So they have invested in a couple of startups in Finland and in Virginia in the US to think about the future of fiber and the future of garment. They have invested, they were part of 130 million deals on those 2 companies. So they are thinking also outside to think about the future. But what is key to the new chairwoman of Inditex is about sustainability. How can we transform that company in a green company? So having said this, we discussed in the introduction, in the welcoming remarks, about all the subject matters that you are. But let's talk about 23. Let's talk about our focus for 23. And sustainability, look, as we discussed about Inditex, about retrofitting garments, 50% of garment is waste. Circular economy, it's something important to you, right, in Antwerp-Bruges?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think we still have a long way to go. I think all of us still think too much linear. Source, product, and waste. So I'm happy that big companies are taking steps here. What are we doing? 3 years ago, we decided to develop a specific area in the port for circular economic activities. And it was a clear decision, because for us it's easier if we have land available to just fill it up with warehouses. That goes just like that. I think it's for all of us in our ports, that business runs easily. So it was a strategic decision not to use that land for the traditional business, but really to build the economy of the future. And we have set up a whole organization to do analysis and then to go into the market. And recently we were able to sign 4 deals. 3 of them are immediately related to circular economy. I just mentioned one, and not to go into much detail, but one will be chemical recycling of PET. So we are going to use waste plastic, recycle it fully to make virgin material. That's really circular thinking. And what we hope with these initiatives is that they will, again, inspire and push the big players that are active on the chemical cluster in our port to incorporate in future these initiatives, like we see with all the big companies, even the Microsofts that innovate through acquiring startups, that these small initiatives, which are small in the beginning, but are actually on the right road, that they are taken over by the big players, and that this is the beginning of a real circular economic activity in ports. because I'm convinced that ports are ideal places to do this circular economic business. Big flows of goods are involved, so absolutely something in the heart of our strategy.
And beyond circular economy, smart mobility is also one of your priorities for 2020, right?
Well, I think we have seen in many of our ports that the last years congestion grew. The whole supply chain got distorted, got disrupted, and we are all, especially in some businesses, confronted with maximum capacities. So if we want to move further, which we of course want to do, we want to grow, it's about finding new places and expanding, but it's also about optimizing the existing capacities. And if you look at container terminals, we still have some room for optimization before we go for expansion and taking additional land. And when I talk about smart mobility, it refers to aspects like that. How can we optimize container terminals, better traffic management systems, predictive models? People in the audience will still be probably surprised to say that for most of the containers we still do not know what is the next move. Something we have been saying for years. Can you imagine? This information is available somewhere. Somebody knows what the container will go to because this could belong to somebody. But this information is still not always available at the spot where it's needed. If we can get this information, smart information, at the right moment on a container terminal, you can optimize the space, the limited space. Just examples.
Yeah, and what you're just saying, Santi, I mean, we have been living really in a year of supply chain disruption. And it has been not only in Spain, but everywhere, right? And Luc was saying, we're missing the data at some point. How do we see supply chain disruption way forward, and how can we address pain points that we live in?
Well, you said it before. I mean, you put an example about one of the biggest retailers in that case on fashion distribution. And of course, this is our characteristic in our port. We are handling a lot of this kind of articles. So I will say high value products with not very heavy, so quite light, and not a high volume. So it's and also a high demand. So we need high rotation for that. So we feel the market needs very close to us, because the market, these kind of people, they are asking for flexibility, reliability, predictability, because they need to make the distribution. No, and probably one day talking to you, I was telling you, sometimes these people are saying, okay, Santi, Black Friday is Friday, it's not Tuesday. So I mean, we need to deliver our cargo on time and to put our shops to be the shelves full on Friday morning, and not we are losing the sales during the weekend, that is when we sell more, right? Or even Christmas or whatever, it's just an example. That means that at the other side, the supply side, we have the giantism of vessels also. We have a supply side that we need to make a huge investment on infrastructure. And on the other side, we need a lot of flexibility. So we need to combine that. And that's, it's a challenge for all of us. So we need to innovate. We need to think about how we handle that situation, how we help. We are in the middle, at the end of the supply chain, end to end. So we need to follow, we need to, with our stakeholders, with our suppliers, shipping lines, and also terminal operators, and all the port community around us, and also the final consumer or final companies that they are making the distribution to the final end and the final consumer. So on that way, there are a lot of challenges that I think that, of course, with digitalization, maybe artificial intelligence, I'm not an expert on that, I'm just claiming to the experts to say, okay, let's find out which are the challenges, where do we have the problems on the supply chain. After all the disruptions and so on, we have been seeing how these things have been totally changed, especially with this predictability, that is a key element for them. If not, they need to higher the volume of stocks, for instance, in order to cover these blank sailings, for instance, these disruptions on the service, for many different reasons. So this is a challenge, and I think that ports, we can do a lot, talking among ourselves, how we can help providing them maybe more information, how to predict the situations, how to handle that situation. So I think we have a lot to do on that.
And Santiago, do you think that Port Authority can play a very important role as a neutral party between the cargo owners, for example, the terminal operators, the shipping line, and the others operator of the supply chain?
Sure. I think Pascal, you remember 25 years ago, and most of you, that we start building, or we put in on top of the table the procurement system at that time, right? To provide information, and that was a great movement ahead. So we still, I agree with Luke that you said, okay, we still think that sometimes we are not providing enough information. But in any case, we make a jump again, no? But now this is not enough, because we are informing to our customers what has happened, not what will happen. So in a way, before they could predict much more what will happen. So how will be the next step on the supply chain? But many times now with these disruptions, we need to find new solutions in order to handle all that situation. And I'm not only talking about the seaside, only talking about the hinterland side, how we deliver trains. Sometimes if the cargo is not reaching, I mean, the whole system delivering trains, maybe it's blocked, no? Because you are expecting something that will not get on time. So more or less, I agree, Pascal, we have a great challenge, and we can work on that deeply.
And in that context, Elvir, in Port of Gothenburg, you are changing your DNA right now. You are moving away from Portland model, landlord model, really, to logistics and corridor, right?
Yeah, that is true, and we're not doing anything that's unique. Many of the ports here have already done that, and I was so inspired by Martin and the way you described how Montreal is seeking its DNA in the logistics supply chain, and how you described the upstream and the downstream. I think we need to be mature enough as ports to accept the fact that our value in the logistics is not just the land we own. It diminishes our role. We need to and we should accept that we can and we should play a much larger role in the upstream and the downstream of logistics. But I want to add something when we do talk about the change of DNA, and once ports start taking an active role in helping logistics, we should be very conscious about the fact that we cannot solve everything. So we do, even though if we look at ourselves playing a bigger role tomorrow than we did yesterday, but that alone will not change everything. When we talk about efficiency and data sharing, I still want to just touch a little bit on the fact that our terminals and all of us, we've been looking for efficiency for such a long time that we forgot about flexibility. We've achieved efficiency at expense and at the cost of flexibility. I take a look at our ro-ro operation in the port. The ships have a 98% hit rate when they arrive within 2-hour time frame. And the operation is absolutely fantastic. There's never any delays, and when I say never, obviously there was an exception here or there, but if I compare that versus the container terminal, I see a major difference. So as port, not just being landlord, we encourage our terminals to take a look at the cross-sector. Don't just compare your own terminal operations with other container terminals, because then you're just comparing with people that do the same thing, meaning, you know, they just want to do it a little better tomorrow than yesterday. We encourage and we try to cross-share knowledge between the different sectors, because I do believe that that's in that cross-sharing we can find something more. So yes, I do believe in data. Yes, we do definitely believe that ports should take a larger role in the logistics supply chain, both upstream, downstream, and in the terminal. But I don't think everything will be solved with data. That's a crucial component, but we need to take a look at the operational quality of the terminals as well.
Thank you, Elvir. Jens, if we go on the supply chain resilience, you introduced recently a new concept which is about the crisis-proof requirements for the supply chain. Can you talk about it?
Yes, give me first a chance to echo on your very first question to Inditex, because Inditex we had in our chain port meetings and we discussed about their requirements and their needs, and just to fulfill the other points which have already been mentioned, I heard the word cheap, and that's, you know, it's the same like Elvir said. Look at something different. I can recommend to all our clients. It must be, you know, you have to look at the costs. But at the end, everybody tries to improve the margin and make the highest profit out of a business. But, and then now I come to your topic, disruption because of the pandemic situation, the geopolitical conflicts and weather and ultra-large container vessels and so on. was not very helpful to fulfill the shelves on the Black Friday. You know, if it's there on Tuesday, it's too late and you lose everything, not just the margin. So our recommendation is always, you know, keep an eye on resilience of supply chains, and yeah, therefore we have implemented a lot of concepts, digitization, modern traffic management, using best technology which is available for road traffic management. Quantum computing, for example, is one of these examples. We are using these technologies to improve the best efficiency on the supply chain, and now we are implementing the next generation IT solutions to combine all modes of transport. That is important, that the available data, use them, bring them together, and it's not a matter of technology, it's a matter of mind change in all the stakeholders and all the parties, that you bring this together in one platform. And one platform, I mean, we will at the end not have just one platform, we will have many platforms worldwide, but they have to be able to talk to each other, and this is a matter of standardization and so on. And maybe later on we will talk also on the, you know, on the cyber topic. It has to be on the other side safe and secure for sure, but the strategy is clear. You need one platform where you can share with all the parties their data they need for their efficiency.
Thank you, Jens. Martin, in Montreal, I understand that you, like Elvir, moving away also from the landlord model to the supply chain, to the logistics, and to the corridor. And what are the lessons learned from the pandemic on your side in moving in that direction?
Let's be humble, because we've went through 4 different crises in the last 2 years. I think a 5th one is upon us, because now too many containers are sitting at docks. We're all doing better, but we don't have all the reasons. So let's be humble about the situation. And listening to the panel, I was saying to myself that maybe we need to change the paradigm. And instead of talking about ports, I think it's all about corridor. Our corridors can be efficient and think about not the commodity and the containers, but about people. We do that type of business for customers, employees, and for people. Most of us flew to Barcelona. How obsessed have we been about our flight schedule and how airplanes take care of us to get us at the right time at the right place? Our industry is not obsessed the same way. It's not normal. We should be as obsessed, because the ultimate customers and the ultimate employee has to be taken into consideration in that supply chain. So if we think about not about port authority and our territory, but the overall corridor of how we get things to people efficiently, and as a corridor is not carbon intensive, I think our job will be different. And as public service, it's a job or a place or a forum that we can play an active role in. So I'm optimistic, but the last 2 years has been challenging. So let's learn from those crises.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Mike, on supply chain resilience, this has been lots happening really the last 2 years and the last 12 months, right, in LA. What about 23? Where are you going to be heading to? Back to normal?
I think we're gradually working our way towards normal. And as you know, last year, the ports of LA and Long Beach, we handled the most cargo, especially during the pandemic, handled 20 million TEUs between the 2 ports, which we've never done before. And we did that with some challenges. Obviously, we had some ships at anchor. We had cargo building up in the terminals, and we saw that happening actually nationwide. So you first saw it at the ports, and then it migrating over to the inland locations, which is where most of the cargo goes to as well. But we're very import-centric at the Port of Los Angeles. Cargo coming in from Asia comes into all the West Coast ports and moves either inland by rail, or it stays at the port and handled at the port and moved. And what we saw during this pandemic was cargo, cargo came in, it sat because the warehouses were full. We saw supply chain challenges with the truck drivers and the ability to move the cargo. And so cargo built up. But as long as what my colleagues have said as well, we have to be more efficient in how we move cargo. Today, somebody comes in and they want a container that happens to be on the bottom of the pile. And they should be the ones coming in to pick up the top of the pile. So we need to be smarter of how first it's organized within the terminal and how that truck delivery should be done. Because again, if our biggest market is import, that's all that cargo moving out. And a person coming in and wanting that container at the bottom does take time to do the truck delivery. It's not good for the emissions within the terminal because the truck driver is idling, waiting to pick up that container as the equipment moves to go pick it up. So we need to be smarter in how that cargo moves. And it's very difficult to add more land because you have to reclaim water, you have environmental concerns as well. So you have to be more efficient within the terminals. And so we introduced the Port Optimizer as a tool to try to get that cargo visibility to the customer, where it's at within the terminal, and how to informing their supply chain partners on picking up that cargo. We need to get to the next steps of showing where that cargo is in the terminal so that smart deliveries can take place from those piles. So very important.
But I understand here that you got some issue in terms of consistency, really, between the different initiatives happening in the US, because as LA Long Beach, you have one complex. You have 12 terminals, 6 and 6, right?
That's correct.
All right. And you got 2 platforms, or you will have 2 platforms.
That's correct.
How's that going to be working, especially with the work that you have been doing with VFMC,
yes,
the supply chain innovation teams?
Yes, and very good question, because we thank Port and Gothenburg also working with us on the Port Optimizer, the Port Optimizer that we've implemented. But you're right, Port of Long Beach has a different system, not as robust as ours. We're getting cargo data from US Customs, goes into the system. There are some issues with confidentiality, so the ports don't have access to who that cargo owner is, and that's what the cargo owners prefer. But that information is housed in the Port Optimizer. It gives it out to certain groups of people. So if the cargo owner wants their trucking community to know about their cargo, they can authorize them to get access to it. So there's accessibility that's done by the cargo owner. So there's access to the marine terminal operators, the shipping lines, trucking companies, chassis providers. Even the rail network knows what's coming in ahead of time, well in advance of when cargo arrives. But that's all important in getting the cargo moving. And as Jens says, I think communication amongst the different platforms, there's going to be different platforms, different needs out there, and communication between the platforms is paramount.
Thank you, Mike. We're going to switch off subject now on. We're going to discuss, after the maritime supply chain, we're going to discuss about energy transition. We have, as you know, almost 100 countries looking at us today, and lots of ports from Callao in Peru to Walvis Bay in Namibia to Suva in Fiji. They are asking themselves, what should I do in energy transition? Look, you are very much invested in this, and we are all here around the table invested. What are you doing in 23 for energy transition?
One, put it as number 1 on the agenda. So that's a good start already. Yes. Let's first say that there's going to be need for support from everybody around the world. The decarbonization, which we definitely need. And when I see my grandchildren each time, I know why I'm working so much around this decarbonization. I want the girls to be in a world that we still live in today. So there is an absolute necessity to move towards decarbonization, and that will be a combination of local production, and we know EU, and we understand, of course, looking at the dependence we have now on the Russian gas, or the problem we are confronted with that we need to be looking at sourcing ourselves, but that will never be sufficient. So it will be a combination of production in our countries here, combined with import of the green molecules from places where they can be produced in a much more efficient way. I think Portugal and Spain are the exceptions where I think we can produce green molecules in an efficient way. But for the rest of Europe, I have my doubts, including Belgium. Nevertheless, we are focusing on projects locally. Happy that the American company Plug decided to invest on the platform Antwerp to build electrolyzers and green hydrogen in the port itself. On our platform Zeebrugge, There is High Off Wind, which is a consortium of different companies that have started the initiative, the project to use the wind energy from sea, from the mills in the sea, to produce green methanol and green hydrogen in the port of Antwerp-Bruges. So these are local initiatives which we fully support, and we hope to see much more coming in. But at the same time, we are talking with different parties to build consortia for the production of green molecules abroad. And I know different people around the table are working on these same teams. We are even talking to or working on the same countries, but as far as Antwerp-Bruges is concerned, our main focus today is on Oman, because we are operating the port of Duqm over there, so we have a natural presence since many years there. We know the environment, we know the possibilities, we know the Oman government, so important, you need the support from the local government, absolutely, to keep on moving these things. So Oman is our first priority. Egypt, as we have been doing many projects in Egypt in the last 10 years, so Egypt is our number 3. Further on, we are talking in Chile, and an important country, other country in Africa is Namibia, which has also the excellent conditions to produce the green molecules because of wind and solar available over there. So with these different countries, we're building the relationships, and important, it's not only about talking with the local people, you need to set up a consortium to make this happen. A consortium that has patience and enthusiasm to continue, because this is all evolving. Huh? Even the technology is evolving. Today, to produce overseas and bring it, for instance, to the platforms in Bruges and then to Antwerp, is still financially not possible. We still need mechanisms to close the price gap. But it will come, it will evolve. So we need to be involved, and we feel that port authorities, and especially Port of Antwerp-Bruges, can play a major role here and can be a front runner, set the scene, push the thing forward.
Clear. Jens, we have to tell to the audience that in 2022, we are the 10th anniversary of the Smart Port Initiative launched by Hamburg. And the first initiative was on smart energy. So you have been engaged already for 10 years on energy transition. What are you doing in 23 on this matter?
Yeah, we fulfill the already in place being projects like onshore power supply, and thanks to the Port of Los Angeles, because we learned from them. That's also part of our worldwide network, how to implement shore power for cruise vessels, container vessels, and so on. But the transformation, energy transformation is still running. Hydrogen is also one of the main focus in Hamburg, and as Luc already mentioned, it's not one port in Europe or worldwide who can fulfill that. We always need import and export capacities. We need sourcing areas. Martin and myself, we had the chance to meet together with our prime ministers and chancellors for an agreement to get some green molecules from Canada to Germany. And what I would like to point out is that everybody should know, yes, we have to produce locally, but we also have to import a huge amount of green molecules to Europe. And the ports are, that's the main focus, because they are not just ports with vessels and maritime industry, especially in the port of Hamburg. There's a huge industrial zone with steel production, copper production, and so on. And they are looking for green hydrogen to substitute their fossil fuels for burning, melting processes, and so on. So the big challenge we are fighting on right now, together with the local and the federal government, is to make the deals bankable. It's subsidies. Maybe there are different tax models. Maybe Martin can share with us the Canadian model. The US set up something. In Germany, we try to find a way to guarantee an amount of green ammonia, for example, that you can fulfill or utilize the cracker, getting out hydrogen again out of ammonia up to 100%. Because if you want to invest in cracker technology and there's not enough ammonia to use in the cracker, no finance institute will finance that machine. And it's the same with electrolyzers and so on. And if we have solved this kind of hen and egg problem, I'm sure that we will also get the serial production of crackers, electrolyzers, and so on, and we can scale down the cost a little bit, because solar energy, sun, wind, will cost always the same. But if we can decrease the price of the technology to produce hydrogen, ammonia, and getting energy back out of that, that will be helping a lot.
Thank you, Jens. Elvir, you're bringing the point about cost, Jens, right? And Elvir, really, cost is really an issue, but in the chain. And your idea is really that you need to engage the cargo owners as well.
So the conversations here, they go twofold. We are talking about what ecosystems the port should serve. What we have heard Luke and Jens talk about is the ecosystem where the society at large and the industry at large needs access to green molecules. Whether they are produced here and there, you need the ports to arrange the logistical flow of those green molecules. The other segment of that conversation is, how do we as ports serve the ecosystem of transportation? Which becomes a slightly different conversation, because as ports, we should not just serve, I firmly believe that we should drive the ecosystem of transportation, not the society at large alone, but the transportation. And that's where we benefit from being in a logistics system and not a landlord port. That's when we figure out, how do we incentivize or even penalize? How do we create business models so that our customers, the cargo owners and the ship owners, turn green? How do we behave so that we trigger the right behavior? Well, it's evident that we need to have access to green energy. If we take a look at our port, we are starting 2023 with production of hydrogen. We are starting with bunkering of e-methanol. We will have approximately 50,000 tons of green methanol in the port. But just by having the green hydrogen, just by having the green methanol and LBG, will it be used? Not necessarily. So we need to complement these technical and the availability of the new fuels. They need to be completed with alternative business models. Because we will not be green ports just because our operation, the terminal operation in Port of Gothenburg has been emission-free since February 2020. Does anybody consider us to be a green port? No, because the transportation flow is not green. So I think, again, I'm going to say it, I think it's important that we keep the conversation into two buckets. Bucket A, which is the general transformation of energy, where we as ports have to have the infrastructure for the greater society and the industry need of energy. The other one is the transportation through the port, which is the transportation ecosystem. And there it's more about the business model, not necessarily just the access of technology.
Yeah, the good news is that a year ago here, we were discussing already about business model, and we have not solved the problem yet, right? Santiago, in Barcelona, you have been very much focused on energy transition, on electrifying the port and the different services. And I remember that a year ago we were saying, but we are not an electricity producer. What is happening in 23 on that matter?
Well, right, totally right. I have to say that we are now, for ourselves, writing a energy transition plan, because at the end to put all that in a paper, really with different goals to achieve on short, medium term, and long term. And also bringing up the business models that I agree with you that we need to change as well in order to make green corridors, whatever you like to call. Also with inland terminals, we need to work on all that aspects. So energy transition, producing of energy as well, and that's a challenge. And of course the onshore power supply to all ships that we are arriving at the port. You know that we have the cruise vessels that they are consuming sometimes, so that's a challenge for us. We are working on that, and we are already approved an investment that will be more than 100 million euros in order to have all those connected and provide them electricity. But again, the question is we cannot buy, we have to buy a clean energy or produce a clean energy. So that's the second part of the activity. Also, as you know, we have a very big regasification plant at the port that was built 30 years ago. It's one of the biggest in Europe at that time. So we are reusing that for this transition period that natural gas is not as clean as we would like to be, but in any case is getting better so it can be used for this transition period. Meanwhile, we are finding and trying to produce much cleaner energy. And in that case also, we are producing, as you know, the regasification plant, it produces a lot of coal. So we are making circular economy and delivering that to all our surrounding industry that they need to refrigerate. We have a fresh food market very close to our ports and many premises that they need that. So we are trying to find out solutions that can come out with a much cleaner solution, and also that can be affordable, because those investments are high. But again, how we can find this energy, how we can produce clean energy and then be delivered to the shop. So all that, we are writing that, but also that comes from the strategic plan that gives us the 3 drivers on sustainability: economical, social, and environmental. And of course, that has to be together. Then we build up the innovation plan, and now we are writing the transition energy plan in order to be committed, because it's a must. I agree with all of you. We need to work on that. So it's a commitment, and especially outside commitment that the port is going on that direction. But again, and finalizing with that, I agree also with you, we need to focus, open the focus, and work on the whole, and we can lead that transformation, because I agree absolutely that we can do a lot on that.
Thank you, Santiago. Sustainability is not only about energy transition, as we have been discussing with our friends here around the table. Expansion is also important, both in LA and both in Montreal. You know, can we discuss about, Martin, about Contrecœur, because it's going to be upstream, you know, on the river. So why it has been located here, far from the city of Montreal, and can you discuss about, you know, what's happening there in 23?
Well, thanks for the question, and I remember to everyone that we're having the discussion while COP27 is happening. So thanks for having that topic top of mind. It's so key for everyone. And protecting the environment goes for of course, what we consume, but also what we build and how we operate. And one of the key features of our expansion is that we are imposing the condition in the RFP to build the terminal, as it has to be carbon neutral when it opens. So it's quite a stringent condition. And the site that has been located is a bit further downstream the river. Of course, Montreal is an island, and it's not like you can build something much larger on the island. So we need to work on the fluidity and to alleviate concerns of local citizens. And by having a terminal on the South Shore, it basically, coming back to the corridor concept, it allows the St. Lawrence and Great Lakes to become much more fluid in terms of corridor. So think about the St. Lawrence from basically Quebec to Chicago as one big corridor, and the connection to the highway, and having trucks running on hydrogen, and to the train connection will definitely reduce and significantly the GHG per container. We need to work on the overall emission, but also on the relative emission of everything we buy. And I think tomorrow it's going to be a competitive advantage to have a carbon footprint that is less intensive than the competitor. So we're enthusiastic about it, humble but enthusiastic.
And thank you, Martin. Mike, so with the disruption that you face in LA, really, space has been an issue in Southern California, right? So how do you see expansion on your side there?
Yeah, very good question as well. And you know, as Martin says, you know, we're working very closely with our customers. First off, you know, expansion, we like to, because the state of California is actually requiring now auto carriers starting in 2024 to plug into shoreside emissions, shoreside power. So we have to provide power to the terminal, which is very expensive for the auto companies. But we're looking to further enhance our on-dock rail capabilities, because then that is important in reducing carbon emissions from the trucks on the roadway. So developing more of our on-dock rail, expanding it, more storage tracks, as well as additional berths, and deepening some of our berths to handle the next generation of vessels coming in. So we're working with each of our customers in regards to that. You know, and as mentioned, you know, Elvir brought up a good point as well, is that, you know, we have about 20,000 trucks that visit the Port of LA, Port of Long Beach. And that's a lot of trucks that have to switch over to the next generation of trucks. And we're looking at 2035 as being our goal to try to get those trucks turned over. So what we've done is we actually implemented a fee last year that's $10 per TEU on every diesel truck that comes into the port, and using that money to help buy the next generation of trucks. And so today, you know, a diesel truck in the US is about $150,000. Unfortunately, a battery electric truck is about $300 US. We are testing that type of equipment. We've given out grants to test out zero emission trucks, whether it be battery electric, also hydrogen fuel cell trucks. But those trucks are close to $1 million right now until they come into full production. But we're using that money that we're collecting as a tool to help that driver go buy a new truck. So we're issuing vouchers, and those vouchers are actually given to an entity within the state of California. It's approved by the state of California, and they give out the money to the truck company that can meet those requirements. And there are a few trucks out there that are battery electric. Production has been slow because of the supply chain issues that we all experience. But we're going to start seeing the zero emission, near zero, and then zero emission trucks migrate into the port so that we can get to zero emission 2035. For the yard equipment, and that's where investment becomes very important for the yard equipment, is we need to understand from our customers, do they want electricity or do they want hydrogen as their fuel source for equipment? So luckily, the city of Los Angeles has our water and power, which is a part of the city of Los Angeles that provides power to the port. And they're looking at new technologies, looking at wind, looking at solar, looking at green sources to bring in our electricity, because today you don't want it to be coal, you want it to be green. So working with our sister agency of how do we get power down to the port for the yard equipment, and then how we're going to do hydrogen for the future if our customers choose to go hydrogen. And you know, we'll talk a little later about the hydrogen hub that we're looking at that the federal government is giving grant money for. But we need to understand what our customers want. Do they want electricity? Do they want hydrogen? And then we need to build towards that.
Yeah, what we are seeing here, that we are trying things. We're not sure where we're going to go, but we are trying things all together, collectively, and in each ports. Let's talk about innovation for the last 10 minutes. Innovation has been key, and going back to the paper on Fortune about Inditex, you know, they announced recently their Sustainable Innovation Hub, where they invest, and they put people on the Sustainability Investment Hub. Santi, you have been launching your innovation strategy in 22. What's going to happen in 23 on this matter?
Well, we are in the process, of course, and the first part of the period, we are on the innovation. We have very clear that we need to build up an umbrella that put in the same area all these future decisions. Let me say in other words, we are building up a blue district, let's say, connected on the concept of the blue economy. The blue economy at the end is all our economy that you said before, not coming from the sea, so logistics as well. Focus on the sustainable way. I mean, that's it, no more. It's more a marketing name than other things, but I think it summarizes what we are talking here. That will be the future. We need to work on that, on this concept of blue economy. That means that we are building up the blue district. So try to put together, since from the beginning, the research, development, startups, living labs, all these kind of things, using the ecosystem that we have in Barcelona. It's an innovation ecosystem, very powerful, but we find out that this ecosystem is not working on the maritime sector, on our sector. So we need to address them, which are the challenges that we have been talking here, point it out, try to find good solutions for that, try to find new business model, sometimes also trying to find venture capital that can work on that. So build up an ecosystem that can come out with solutions on that. And we understand that that the port can play that role, that we can put that together. Also, we are going to restore an area in order to put all these ecosystem inside, and the people know that here they have the ability to find out different solutions. And at the end, we need to convert the ideas. Innovation at the end is to put the ideas into value. So we need to create value. Then we can invoice for that value and can come out new business models. Or even as a public entity, if the value is for everybody, it's 100%, so even we could give it for free. You know what I mean, no? That's depending on the situation that we find out. But we need to create value. And the innovation has to be with all these aspects, together with the university, together with financing, finding out the new startups and so on, so create this system. So that's what we are doing now, that we are doing on 2023. We want to build up this and also use the performance of the America's Cup that we are going to organize here as a very sustainable event. So try to also innovate on that area, as we are going to have a lot of people around for this ecosystem as well. So use all these opportunities to keep going with results, no? With these challenges, try to find solutions for that.
But innovation is also about people, as you rightly said, right? Yeah. Luc, what do you do for attracting talent and people for innovation in Antwerp-Bruges?
Well, it's by creating a true innovation spirit that you become attractive. Huh? So what are we doing? A lot of effort to find these people, but it has become more successful since we put in more focus on our innovation. Innovation is the end, it's a means to a goal. Right? It's never a goal in itself, it's a means to a goal. And we have defined clear focuses, and one of them is sustainable chemistry. That's where our Blue Chem innovation districts start to develop. And as you focus, you do attract specific talents to that because they are looking for something specifically. Another focus is on the recycling, which we do on our next-gen demo part of the innovation district. So I would say by creating focus and by making very clear what innovation you're looking for, we feel it helps to attract talent. And next to that, a lot of education. Training, give the people that join you the attention they require, otherwise they run away.
Thank you, Luc. For the last 3 minutes, we're going to be discussing, we have a few questions, but I'm going to take one. You know, we are in very advanced sports, you know, in terms of thinking and the way of future, but the big issue is about closing the gaps with others. We know that other countries in the south are not as much as advanced as you are. If you have to take each of you one recommendation to the developing and emerging world that need to move forward, which one would you pick as a priority number one? Elvir.
Definitely access to the conversations that are taking place here. Take part and invest in these relationships. Building these relationships, it gives much more back than expected. So start building the relationships.
Building relationship is one. Luc.
Go on the spot. We have our daughter company, Port of Antwerp-Bruges International, building relationships with countries in the south, but bring your know-how there and listen to what they have to say, but really make the step. That's my advice. Just don't sit here and talk about it, just go there, look for projects and build things together.
Working together. Jens, what is your recommendation to our colleagues?
Yeah, collaboration, as we live for the last 10, 20 years, look at the best practices we have already implemented and keep an eye, especially in the European region, to the war of talents. You have to think about the next 10 to 15 years, the baby boomers will go to retirement. And you have to start now, otherwise you will fail in 10 to 15 years because there's not enough stuff available to fulfill the challenges of the future. And we are able to share the concrete solutions.
And in 5 years, we're going to be in a different world anyway.
We have to.
Mike, what is your recommendation?
Yes, we have a number of MOUs with different port cities as well. So it's staff sharing. We do a lot of staff sharing. People go to the different locations and learn what they're doing, and people learn from us, especially on our cold ironing. That was something that a lot of people came and wanted to understand how it worked. So definitely staff sharing.
Martin, as you have been also new in this world the last years of ports, you know, what is your recommendation to our colleagues around the world?
Well, you know what? I think attracting talent and diversity is key for tomorrow. Look at us today. It's 7 male in the industry. That is an issue. I think if we want to attract talent tomorrow, we need to be diversified and take advices by others and give advices. But we need to attract and be sexy to the industry, because the transportation sector as a whole is not a sexy business. Production is, consumption is. So we need to attract talent of tomorrow, and let's work on that and take the advices also, and not to be in a professional mode only.
Thank you, Martin. Santiago.
Well, yeah, we have to address another message. I agree with you, and make it attractive. But in any case, Pascal, answering your question, I think here is an example of how we want to share our thoughts and our ideas and our challenges and whatever. So we are extremely open. We do that by a TV set, so everybody can contact us. We can also keep working, because we do it with IAPH, with the National Association of Ports and Harbors, also with the European ports. So this, what we are discussing here, we are happy to share. We could do it alone. No. We open that on a TV set in order that everyone in the world can contact us, can join us, can be happy to share all those ideas. Here we cannot be 100 people talking at the same time, but a couple of us try to deliver a message and be open-minded in order to collaborate and share all this information.
Great. And in conclusion, I have to say, Luc, that I got an email last night, LinkedIn messages from African port, and they said, you need to come. We need to have smart port, not BCN, but Africa. You need to come to tell us how to work together. This is really a great endeavor, but you're absolutely right. It has been a great pleasure, gentlemen, to have you today. Sustainability, energy transition, supply chain resilience, innovation is really important to us and to all the world as well. Thank you for your time today. We will meet each other in other panel session in the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great.